So this is a video response to retrocomputerkidchris's video. He did a game review um, of a game called Scary Tales on the Amstrad, and at the end of the video he asked a few questions. So his first question was, what was your first ever console? And how old was you when you first got it? My first ever console would have been an Atari 2600 Junior. I'm not sure how old I would have been. I think I might have been about 14. It was in 1990. I bought it off my friend in school. He sold it for me. He sold it to me for just £2.50, which I thought was an absolute bargain. He gave me a few games with it as well. I know one of the games was Carnival. I can't remember what the other games were. Unfortunately, though, there wasn't a power lead for it, so whenever I wanted to play it, I'd have to borrow a power lead off another friend. I only had that system for just a few months. I've got absolutely no idea what happened to it. His next question is, what was your first computer system? My first ever computer system was an Acorn Electron. I got it for Christmas in 1984. I'm pretty sure it was 1984, and I was 8 years old at the time. And the first game that I played on it was a Pac-Man clone called Snapper, and that was the first ever video game that I played. And the Acorn Electron itself, it was basically a cut down version of the BBC computer. His next question was, what was the first ever game that you bought with your pocket money? I honestly can't remember. I mean, the first time I ever bought a game with my pocket money, it probably would have been 1985 or 1986. It probably would have been a game on the Atari 800 XL. My earliest memory of buying a video game with my own money, I think it may have been buying One Man and His Droid for the Atari 8-bit from Tommy Field Market in Oldham. I'm pretty sure I did buy that with my own pocket money. I'm not 100% sure. Other than that, it would have been when I went to Manchester. I went to Atari World in Manchester City Centre, and I'd saved up about £17 in £1 coins, and I bought loads of games from that shop for the Atari 8-bit, and that would have been maybe 1988, I think. His next question is, what computer shops did you have in your area when you was younger? When I was young, when I was a kid, I used to live in Chadderton, and quite often I'd go to Oldham Town Centre, and in Boots the Chemists, believe it or not, back in the 80s, not only did they sell pharmacies, they also sold computers and video games in there, games for the BBC Micro, Acorn Electron, Spectrum, Atari 8-bit. So I used to sometimes get games from there. Usually it'd be my mum buying the games. There was also Tommy Field Market in Oldham. It was like an outdoor market, and they sold second-hand stuff on there. Most of the stuff that was being sold on there was like second-hand stuff, but there was some new stuff as well. And I always used to go into that market and look for really old Beano comics and stuff. But there were a couple of occasions where I'd buy games from there, games that were new. Like I said before, I remember buying One Man and His Droid for the Atari 8-bit from there. There was also Home and Business Technology Centre, I think it was called, in Oldham Town Centre. It was on Yorkshire Street, I think. It was on the end of a row of buildings, and yeah, they used to sell computers in there, and video games on cassette and video games on those really big old floppy disks. There was also a shop called Oscar's in New Moston, and New Moston was right next to Chadderton. In fact, we did eventually end up moving to New Moston, so it was just basically like a 1 minute walk away from my house. Oscar's, the video shop, is now being converted into like a normal house, but back in the day when it was a shop, they mainly rented videos. But at the counter there was like a little rack. I think it was one of those that you could turn round, if you know what I mean. And on the rack they had like video games on cassette on it, and they had Atari 8-bit games on the rack. They probably also had Spectrum games on the rack and Commodore 64 games on the rack as well. And yeah, on my 11th birthday, my friend actually bought me a game off that rack. It was called LA SWAT for the Atari 8-bit, and him and a load of me other mates were at my house, and we all played that game, and amongst other games as well, on the Atari 8-bit. And I remember going into a shop in Manchester once, back in the 80s. We bought a few games. One of them was Spellbound. For the life of me, I can't remember what shop it was though. I don't think it was Atari World. But then I remember in around 1988, me and my nephew, we went to Manchester City Centre. We went into Atari World, and Atari World, they sold basically pretty much all the stuff they sold in there was stuff for the Atari, for the Atari 8-bits, for the Atari ST. They were in a basement on Fennell Street, and they also set up a company called Red Rat Software, and I think they used to work in the back producing games. So that's quite interesting. Obviously they're not around anymore, sadly. But yeah, I remember going into that shop once back in 1988 with my nephew, and I'd saved up about £17, and it was all in £1 coins, and I bought a load of games from there, all on cassette. I can't remember most of them. I can't remember one of them was called Draconis, another one was called Spooky Castle. And I remember we left the shop, we headed to the train station, and was waiting for the train to go back home. And for some reason I was looking inside the game cases. I'm not sure if I was checking to see if the games were there, but I remember looking inside the Draconis case and there was no cassette in it, so we ended up having to go back to the shop, and I just said to the guy behind the counter, there's no tape inside this case, and so he gave me the tape. So that was pretty cool. And those are all the computer shops that I can remember in my area back in the day. And then his last question was, what is your view on software still being written for the old 8-bit computers like the BBC and the Commodore 64 and whatever? I think it's great. I think it's great that people, that there's still so many people around who still enjoy these machines. They have nostalgia for these machines. They still enjoy playing games on them, using them for other things, like more serious things. I think it's great that people are still writing software on them and stuff. Yeah. So that's pretty much it. That's basically my video response to the Retro Computer Kid Chris's video. So thanks for listening.